You're listening to the YOLO Revolution podcast. In today's episode, we are joined by the wonderful Amy of Get Try Fit. Amy was introduced to me by my darling cousin, Jamie, and the second that I met Amy, we could not stop talking. She is such a beautiful, amazing soul who is out there grabbing life by the horns? I don't know. Grabbing onto life, doing her thing, supporting others and encouraging others to do the same through movement, through exercise. We both have very similar ideas on how we can live our best lives, how we can go out there and become our best selves. And she loves to show people how to access that through movement, through exercise, through her program, Get Try Fit. So I am very excited to introduce you to the wonderful, amazing Amy. And you can hear her inspirational story of how she went from struggling mom, losing who she was, to becoming this badass business owner ready to take on the world. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Candace James. If you're ready to transform your life, to live with purpose, to experience more joy, to follow your dreams, and finally do what you've been waiting for someday or one day to do, then you're in the right place. Consider this your warning that you only live once, which is why I've spent the last 12 years using mindfulness-based tools to create and live my best life, traveling the world, becoming a published author, building a successful business, creating joy on demand, and helping others do the same. In this podcast, you'll learn that the only thing getting in the way of living your best life is your own mind. Join me to discover how to reprogram your subconscious and harness the power of your mind so that anything you dream in life can become your reality. Welcome to the YOLO Revolution. Welcome back. Today, we are here with the wonderful Amy, who I was introduced through my cousin. And ever since, whenever we get together, we have ridiculously long conversations that go on and on and on and on. So we did put a timer on today specifically so that we rein it in a little bit. But we're here to share with you a lot of Amy's beautiful knowledge. We connected on really bringing the best out of people, helping people bring or live their best lives. And so Amy is actually a mother of 3, and she is the owner of at Get Try Fit. I can't say that. Get Try Fit. I put the ad in there like as if we're on Instagram. Get Try Fit, which is a online streaming fitness organization. But I'll let you speak to that. Amy, do you want to say hello and who you are and what you do?
Well, thank you. And yeah, we do talk a lot. I talk a lot. We talk a lot. Get Try Fit is my online service, but it's really this platform that lets me reach so many more people than what I used to be able to do in my studio. And it's a fitness streaming service that lets you hit play on a workout anywhere, anytime. And my hope is in the process of doing that and learning to kind of incorporate fitness into your daily life, you're also learning some really important life lessons about yourself that transfer to the rest of the areas, starting with giving grace to yourself, learning to love yourself, learning to love what you can do. And that's kind of, I guess, the underlying mission of what Try Fit is. And it stems from all the lessons I learned starting having my kids and going on my own journey.
Awesome. And I may be incorrect here, but the majority of your videos are just 20 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah. Everything's 20 minutes because as a mom of 3, I don't have any time. I don't have any time. And I think all of us don't have time. And the biggest reason why we omit fitness from our life is that we just don't think we can have the time to do it because we're told that we're supposed to be doing it for 60 to 90 minutes. We're supposed to do these many days. We have to go to a gym. And it just starts layering all the excuses on why we're not taking this time for ourselves. And so 20 minutes, everything's 20 minutes. And I think it's a really important measure that if you can't find 20 minutes for your life, it's really a big moment to overhaul why you don't have 20 minutes for your life in your life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I say that too. When I give people a 5 or 10 minute meditation, they're like, I don't have time for this. I'm like, put down your phone and find 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. And also, I love that you touched on there. We've been told that we should be doing 60 to 90 minutes of exercise, which does seem like a significant amount of your day, especially, if you're working and you've got dependents and you've got all these other things going on. But I loved that you touched on that, because a large part of the YOLO revolution is really combating against what we've been told.
Yeah.
Right. We're told that there's this one way to do things. This is the best. This is how you got to do it. If you want this, then you have to do it this way. And we've been told this in so many areas of our lives.
Yeah.
And you said that right off the bat. And so what's the difference there? Like, why were we told 60 to 90 minutes and how can you do that differently in 20?
Well, so the idea is like, I think originally it was this idea that if we can just get people to go and, go for, first it came from a walk, right? So if you walk for 60 minutes to have weight loss as a success, because that's why most people start working out, is to lose weight, is if you do it for 60 minutes, walking, that's how long you have to walk for a minimum of 60 to 90 minutes at that metabolic rate to see any kind of change, right? Because you're working at a really low aerobic level. So it's not getting your heart rate up. It's not causing any of the physiological changes. So you have to do it for a really long period of time. And then if you're doing strength training as well, if you do traditional strength training the way that you've been taught to do it, you do so many reps and then you stop. And then you do so many reps and then you wait. And so by the time you've done that, it's about 60 minutes to get in a basic workout, but that's not how you have to do it. And it's actually not how our body responds best to exercise. The thing about exercise is I look at weight loss as a byproduct of working out. It's not the purpose for working out. Exercise, when you look at what happens within the body, at the cellular level, and especially when you look at what happens within the brain when we exercise, it's literally the spark to everything. And so when we exercise for roughly 20 minutes and we exercise at that moderate to intense level for that duration, magic happens within the body. And it starts with, you release dopamine, you release serotonin, you release BDNF, which is this wonderful neurotropic that happens. You also release AMP from your heart that sends this calming signal to your brain. So all these things that we get weighed down with day to day in our life from our stress and our anxiety, and even people having record levels of depression and stuff like that. When we're exercising at that intensity on a daily basis, we're actually doing everything that we use medication to kind of control those things. So being able to do that starts healing us from the inside. And I I lost track on my thoughts there. I'm sorry. But so the idea is from 60 minutes that we would have this kind of minimum starting point for people. And everyone thought it would be so easy to go for a walk for 60 minutes. And instead, no one has time for 60 minutes at all to go for a walk. So that's where the norm came from. Sorry, I went detour.
No, you went in a great place and it was very interesting. And I think we've spoken about that before, right? Is that, this door to creating a life that's better, a healthier life with less stress, less anxiety, less depression, less whatever, right? There's many different doors from which you can enter into that. And, I take people largely through, we start with the mind and then we move into, and what we'll often realize very soon is that, you also have to be moving, right? There's stagnant energy. You got to get that energy out. So I go from the mind to the physical and recommend that they do physical, and you sort of take people from the physical and then get into their mind. Right. And so you sort of flip that around, but essentially, I mean, I think it's important that both things are wildly important.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when we get stuck out of this idea that we have to this idea also having to do 60, 90 minutes, it's like this overwhelming list on our weekly thing of what we have to do. And so it just adds so much more weight. And when you start to connect that you're doing movement in whatever capacity, but if you can figure out how to do it daily and do it for that minimum of 20 minutes, you start paying yourself back tenfold. And it's no longer this weight because you're feeling these benefits that exercise is meant to give to you And it is this process of getting in touch with yourself. Like if you're working out in that way and in that intensity, you start to really kind of battle the ideas that either people have put on you, society have put on you, or you have put on you. You start working through your baggage. You just naturally do. And so that's where it does lead to the mind aspect. For me, it is very much that tunnel in, because that's how I experienced it. I didn't really start unpacking my layers until I learned to exercise daily and push myself through fitness. And it was that place that I really started to combat and disassemble and rebuild who I am today. Right. And everyone kind of has different ways that they do that. I didn't have the pleasure of touring all of South Asia to get there. But for me, yeah, I battled my demons through fitness and through exercise and sport. And it's just another great platform to do it.
I love that. And I know with my own clients, and I struggled with anxiety for a long time, PTSD induced anxiety. It was a wild ride. And so a lot of clients talk to me about anxiety, right? And the first thing I'll tell them is get up and move.
Yeah.
Right. You're feeling anxious and you're sitting on the couch going, I'm so anxious. I'm like, no, you got to get up, you got to move, you got to release that energy that's within you. And as soon as you start moving, your body starts triggering different things, and you start to release this anxiety. And that was, a mind and body thing together, right? Realize that we are not actually, whatever we're thinking is going to happen in our anxious state is likely not going to, and to get up and allow that to dissipate. So they really do go hand in hand, which I love. And, we hear, right, the YOLO revolution is really about like, you only live once, you got to live your best life, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're sitting around. There's so many people that live this life that are doing things they don't like, not feeling the best that they could feel, right? There's all these different things going on in people's lives. It's really not the best version. And how would you say that this exercising every single day, just 20 minutes a day, how does that really help somebody live the best version of their life?
On a couple different levels. For one, I think we are like talking to that anxiety. I think we're probably the most anxious we've ever been as a collective group. Mm-hmm. And when it's not being addressed, we get paralyzed. And so when we start learning how to productively move through that, find an outlet, because it literally is energy in, energy out, right? And so when you can't even start to live your best life when you're stuck in this paralysis. And so movement starts doing that, and it starts moving it. And then it starts giving you a sense of control over the anxiety. So things, as they start to come in and trigger you, you start to get this control of, okay, I know what to do now. I know how to make this go away. And with that control comes a sense of ability. And with that sense of ability comes a sense of confidence. And that confidence starts to make you realize there's more things I can do that I didn't think I could do. And so through fitness, you start to realize I didn't think I'd ever be able to do, like, I probably every week I get a message from one of my clients who are telling me, I never thought I'd be able to do this. I know you said I would, but I would never be able to do this, but I did it. And I'm doing this. And like, I feel so great. And I feel amazing. And it's literally pouring out of them, not just their excitement for themselves and their pride for themselves, but their confidence that they can do more. And when you start to embrace that, you do start to live your best life because you're no longer afraid. You realize you've acquired these tools that you can keep expanding on and start adding. So maybe you add meditation, maybe you add mindfulness, things that maybe you were more intimidated with, because people who come in through my platform, fitness is the first thing that they're able to connect with to make those changes. And then you start adding, and because you realize you learned these tools that you can now incorporate more and start to really go for the things that you were always afraid to do. And it doesn't have to be fitness related. It's just this wonderful door that opens up possibility. And then that's really when you start to go, oh, okay, this is how I want to live my best life. I want this, whatever it is, right? And knowing you have the tenacity to do it. That, yeah, I'm going to come across obstacles. Yes, I'm going to have some difficulty, but I already learned how to do this. I learned how to show up for myself every single day. I learned how to carve out time for myself every day. I didn't think I'd be able to do that. I learned to do things that I swore I would never be able to do that was for somebody else. And I've now learned all these coping strategies to handle every time I get anxious or every time I get overwhelmed or every time I talk negatively to myself. I've now acquired all these tools to realize what that negative self-talk is about and how to eradicate it. So I'm going to go for it. And that's what I see is with my clients, they start taking on bigger and bolder things. And every single time they have this smile on their face. And it's the most rewarding part of my job, is getting to see these people like embrace their possibility. And that's how I see it, living your best life.
Wow, I love that. And it's just the way that you know, I've spoken with some of your members and seen the inside of your membership and all of that. And, you know, I love so much the way that you really incorporate this like self-love, self-compassion, confidence in all of it. Right. And it's not even just from what I've seen is like, not even just, you know, do the exercises and you'll get the confidence. You add this element of these types of talks like we're having right now to help guide people through to that. You're there to encourage them. You have, from what I've seen, really great relationships with a lot of your members. And so it just seems like such a beautiful space to, you know, get that fitness in for all the reasons that we want to get that fitness in.
Yeah.
Right. So that's awesome. Thank you. And you haven't always been this
No.
Get Try Fit instructor. So tell us a little bit about your journey to finally living your best version of life.
Yeah, most people get really shocked when they find out that I actually didn't start even exercising regularly until I was in my 30s. So I was a complete book geek. Still am. Still am a massive book geek.
Hello.
I think the biggest thing that's been consistent, no matter what part of my story is, I love learning. I absolutely love learning. But no, I wasn't that. I did all the classic things, kind of like what you were saying. Like I was this top A student and, was always, doing whatever highest level school would give me, and then went to U of T and excelled at university and had like this whole trajectory of what my life was going to be. And many times, like, we have these little hiccups that get thrown at us. And when I finished school, I had to go straight into the workforce instead of going back to school, which is what I had originally wanted to do. And so I ended up going into corporate finance with an English lit degree in Shakespeare. Like, it was not most, like, my educational background might not have given as much confidence to my clients as I had hoped, but I went into finance, loved it. But what I loved about it wasn't necessarily the corporate world. What I really loved about it was teaching people how to make their money work for them. That's what I really enjoyed, is getting to show people, there's another choice to just having debt, and feeling out of control. Teaching people how, like, on a small scale, when I would work with just one-on-one clients, or like personal clients, you call personal versus corporate and small business and mid-market and stuff. And at first I would work with those small clients and teach them just how to make their money work, how to keep a positive bank balance, how to start saving for their future and that kind of stuff. And then I would moved on to working with businesses. I remember having like my first dreamer entrepreneur come in my office, and they were so like ecstatic and excited for their outcome. And I'm looking at their balance sheet and I'm like, this isn't going to happen, and just being this really practical person. But it didn't stop them. And I remember thinking, wow, I can never be that person. I can never be that person who all the external signs are like, this is an uphill battle and you're risking your financial future on it. There's no way. the old Amy would never have done that. And then we tried to get pregnant with our first kid, and we couldn't. Like, we really, really struggled. I was young. I was only 26, and we just couldn't get pregnant. We had been trying for a year and a half. Probably had a lot to do with my high stress job, because by that point I already was running a team of financial advisors, and I was running a team, and I was really one of the top performing people in all of Southern Ontario. And so because if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it all the way. That A-type personality has definitely been my driver from day one. And if someone says no, I have issues with that word, and I'm definitely going to be like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. I think is why I've always chosen male dominated areas too, is that is an extra challenge as a young woman. So anyhow, we couldn't get pregnant, and we were just starting to we were going to go for our first fertility meeting, and found out we were pregnant. And I still continued to work like a dog through all of that, and got a lot of health complications with it. I don't, even though I have 3 kids, I'm not really well designed to carry kids. My body really, really struggles with it. Specifically my heart really can't handle the load of 2 people. And so my heart has to be monitored the entire time I'm pregnant, and I have to go for a whole bunch of tests before I even deliver, and I have to have a C-section. So because the first time I had Alexandra, I went into tachycardiac arrest, and ended up having to stay in the hospital for quite a while they tried to figure out why my heart just doesn't seem to be able to handle this whole process. So I had to keep going on bed rest, because I would keep working and working. I remember being in a meeting with my midwife, and she said if I don't put away my phone and stop showing up with my phone, she was going to let me go as a client. So
wow.
Yeah, workaholic was definitely a problem. And I always say, like, the universe kind of throws different warning signs at you until eventually it throws a brick at your head and says, like, this is what you need to do. So going into tachycardiac arrest, Pete leaving me at the hospital, still unconscious, with all of the different experts, because I had been in labor for almost 2 full days, and he was exhausted. He hadn't even processed, and it didn't wait until he got home that he realized that my heart gave out. And he came in and he was like, we need to change things. And he also, the next thing is like, we're going to adopt from now on. That's the other thing. But no, I realized that the life I was living really wasn't serving me, and I had more than me to think about now. And so I walked away from it all. I gave up my career, gave up that whole trajectory, and in the same time completely lost who I was, because how do I now define myself? I'm not a financial planner. I'm not in this corporate world. I'm not an academic. I didn't have a single carrot. I didn't have a single trophy or report card or something that was always what I had used to value myself. Right? Like, this is how I understood my worth, was what I brought to the table and I needed those accolades. I very desperately needed those accolades to know my worth. And I did not want to be a parent who started living her life through her kids' accolades. I didn't want to own it. I didn't want to be associated with it. Like, in that sense, like, I wanted my kids to be able to celebrate themselves for themselves, not because I put them in that situation. And I never wanted it's an ownership, and it's not healthy for me or them. So I didn't know what to do. And I also had other health issues. And the gist of it is, I was just in a really bad place after I had my son. I had severe hypothyroidism. Um, and just, I was just in a dark place. I think probably it was postpartum. I remember being in the Y with my girlfriend, and we had the kids in the um, in the daycare and stuff like that. And I didn't even know how to turn on a treadmill. Like, that's how far removed from this I was. I didn't know how to use any of the gym equipment, and I had been saying no to going up with her. And we went in. I finally said yes. We go up and walking on the treadmill. And I told her I felt like I was drowning. I felt like I was surrounded by black water and I couldn't even see the surface. And started just kind of like, I had never talked to people like that. I never was a person who kind of showed my vulnerability. That was like a no. You didn't let people know how to hurt you. You didn't know how people to see the essence of you and the truth of you. That was like a terrifying thing. But I was so lost and so down the multitude. Like, not only just like, who am I have no identity, but also, other than a mom, like, I was just a mom and a wife. Like, I wasn't Amy anymore. I was these titles.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to just say, I can't cope. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I want to cry all the time. I'm going to cry right now thinking about it. I didn't enjoy being a mom, and I thought this was supposed to be my be all and end all, because I loved my kids, and I loved being able to be there, but I was just so sad all the time. And my girlfriend just listened. She just listened, and I hadn't had those relationships with girlfriends either. I always found it really hard to kind of click with women and with girls, because I was this naturally competitive person, but it was very much a male competitiveness and a more male style confidence too that I always had. Like, I had no doubt that if I said I was going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, I don't know why. That's who I've always been. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make the easiest person to be friends with. It really doesn't. I've been called intimidating, because like, I'll just charge into a situation, whether I know I'm right or wrong, it doesn't matter. I'll still like jump in and be part of it. But it makes it hard to have friends, and it really makes it hard to learn how to trust. And I was just so broken. I just opened up, and she just at the end of it said, I love you. And that was it. And it was just something like this wave that came over, that, oh, I can actually be vulnerable with somebody else other than my past spouse. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be rejected. It's not going to be thrown back at me. And I'm not alone. And I started working out with her, and we would start going to the gym. And I was like, oh, I like this, right? I had used fitness on and off. Like, I mean, like everybody, right? You kind of do different things that kind of come across. Like, I had always jogged on and off. Definitely wouldn't have called myself a runner at the time, but I would jog on and off. I learned in university that I can study a freakish amount of information and store it in my brain if I do it when I walk on a treadmill. And then too, I had to have the person show me how to do it. But I learned that if I could just like move and study, I would do very well. I almost have like a photographic memory if I am moving and studying my nose. But it's not something I did consistently. I would do it every time I had midterms. So her and I started working out, and I loved it. Suddenly I had measures again. I had things that I could measure my personal success off of every time, because anything I did in the past, it wasn't about beating other people. It was just about being better than I was the day before. And if you got trophies and ribbons, it was even better. Like, it was just like, this is awesome. Yeah. And I have a miniature of me who's exactly the same. And so it's funny how it's innate, some things that drive us, right? And so I'd be able to go to the gym every day, and all of a sudden I'm lifting a higher weight each day, or I'm running, and turns out I'm a really good runner. didn't realize how good of a runner I was. And then I start running and it's like, I'm really good at this. And so I went to go watch my brother do a triathlon, and it was amazing watching him do this thing and seeing the community. And my brother also, like, he was never very athletic either. And I'm watching him crush this race, and he just looked like such a boss. And he was doing something so hard, so hard. And it wasn't about coming first. It was just about finishing your best finish. And I was like, oh, I can never be perfect at this. That's amazing. Like, you always have to work at it. You always have something to improve on. That's amazing for me, because it means the carrot's always dangling and it's changing. So there's so many layers of things that make me happy about that. And so I said I was going to start training for a triathlon, and got pregnant with my third at the same time. And I ended up racing my first triathlon pregnant with her, came absolutely dead last, dead last. And then had her and went to my husband. I said, I wanted to see what I can do not pregnant. And I came fourth.
Nice.
And that then started my whole career on fitness and reconnecting with myself. And so that whole process of leaving my career and to so much unknown, and starting to learn how to build relationships with people where I can be vulnerable and I can be honest and not be afraid of rejection, and have something that I never had before. Like, I have a multitude of girlfriends that I never had that before. And I started realizing I have this really lovely gift that when I let myself do that, and I let myself be open and vulnerable, I connect with people and inspire them to do things that they never thought. And so the very thing I loved when I first started with the bank, of teaching people how to make money work for them, I started teaching people how to show up for themselves the way that I was learning. And it's kind of like with your kids, right? As you're learning and being a better person, as you're teaching your kids how to be decent human beings. And my business became this extension of it. And now I get to sit in this position of showing so many people that we don't have to be stuck in the narrative. We can change our narrative at any given point, and we are truly the captains of our own ship. And that is living my best life.
I love that. What an incredible journey, and inspiring. You touched on a lot of these points that people go through often when we decide, when we wake up, and however we wake up. And, my goal is to help as many people as possible wake up to the fact that their life isn't fulfilling them before they end up in the hospital for days on end. Right. But I know so many people that's the catalyst, right?
Yeah.
An actual physical health problem has been like, your body's just like, we're not doing this anymore. Okay. Like, we're not. And it brings itself down. It says, we can't handle this anymore. And you're not doing this to us anymore. And you are by far not the first person who I've spoken to where that is the catalyst to make a change in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so, by golly, I hope that by hearing these things and starting to learn what these things sound like and feel like before we end up in the hospital, learning to tune into those signs. What are those signs? And making those changes. It doesn't need to get to those points in order to realize that we need to make changes. Right. And then I loved what you said too about, I loved it, but I like the point that it made, when you said that you lost yourself.
Yeah.
And this is so huge. And this is what holds so many people from doing it. You didn't have as much of a choice to change the way that things were going. I mean, you could have kept going, but it would have been very detrimental to your health, to your family, to everything. Right. And so for a lot of people who aren't forced into that decision, forced into well, who the heck am I now? I'm not Amy anymore. I'm just this and this. that can be really, really scary. And that's what actually holds a lot of people from actually moving out of something, right? Is, well, then who will I be?
Yeah. And the thing is it's always that old age thing of the devil you know is better than the one you don't. And even though you're miserable where you are, the fear that you can even be more miserable should you, like, that unknown, that unscary, right? Like we've been afraid of the unknown since the beginning of time, right? It's that safety mechanism. The thing that I've learned, and the thing is, there's two things I think that have made me who I am today. And one is going through that journey, and two is learning to be the parent I always wanted to be. And that is giving my children making giving, how do I phrase it? I don't know how to phrase it well, but basically teaching my children that they are truly limitless, that the fear is the best thing. Like, if you see fear, run to it, go for it. Like, that's where your growth is. That's the game changer. That's like, no matter what happens, even if scary things happen, you're going to gain so much from it. Like, if we run from fear, we're never going to learn what we're capable of. And so it's been that simultaneous journey, because all of us are it's back to, like you said, like what we're taught on norms, right? Like, you did the same thing. We went through, like, this is what we're supposed to do. And you can even argue, like, you were asking me when we started about, like, how long Peter and I have been together. Well, we've been together for 26 years, but we've known each other since we were 14. We didn't go to the same high schools or anything, but that classic high school sweetheart, and this idea that, you kind of have your life mapped out for you. The difference is, like, we joke that broken met broken. So I think kind of both being people that needed to figure out how to be whole what's made this really incredible journey for both of us, that we've been slowly becoming whole on our own, but traveling it together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But I think having him there, that made it possible to make that leap. And why it's so scary for so many people to make that leap is, I always knew no matter what, he would leap with me. He might not always agree with my leaps, but he's like, yep, let's see where this goes. Let's do this. And always knowing I would have this safety net, which does make it easier, that he's still going to love me. He's still going to be there. We might have to build from scratch again. Like, we've had to so many times. Like, I think there's 3 moments in our life that we've had to, like, literally come back from almost nothing, or we started with absolutely nothing, like not knowing where we're going to live, like literally having no housing. And that's like, we're kind of like this little island that lets me make leaps and lets me do that. And hopefully I do the same for him, that he feels he can go out and make and chase his best life. So but it's scary. It is very, very, very scary. And it goes back to that paralyzing thing, right, that we talked about at the very beginning. And you either kind of realize this being stuck is not healthy, and it's not where we need to be. Like, even though that other side is just as scary, that unknown, it's still better than being stuck.
Yeah. And stuck is really, I mean, you're not literally stuck in quicksand. And so we have to realize that being stuck is all in the mind.
100%.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it is scary to take that leap. And I think, it's amazing when you have that support system, and it's also amazing to be able to build that support system within yourself, which is, I know, something I've spoken to you about, and that's in the book, is right about how do you become your own best friend? How do you become that own support system that that you'll always have your own back, and that you can always get up to, right? I think when in doubt, lean on yourself, which is really hard to do.
It really is.
And
it is.
And I think, to your point from a while ago, which really got you out of your dark hole, is more people than you realize are willing to be there for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you noticed that when you were just like you said you're in just such a dark place, you're just like, I just have to get this out. And she was there for you, and she supported you, and she told you that she loved you, and boom, all of a sudden you're working out together, and it was a door opening to a different part of your life.
Yeah. And it's this, yeah, because I had never, there's so many reasons why I had grown up to learn to not trust anybody, right? And not let anyone in, and that it gets used against you and it becomes a weapon. And I think probably more people have had some type of experience with that, whether it's through bullying, it's through bosses, or it's through family. We kind of learn that being vulnerable is a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
that it's the worst thing you can possibly do. And yet what I've come to realize is my biggest superpower is being human.
Yeah.
And that's what I try so hard to teach my kids. And it's not just about learning to ask for help. It's about acknowledging I don't have the answer. It's about I don't know how to solve this, but I also know it's okay to just kind of feel my way through this and figure it out. That I will figure it out, but at this exact moment, I don't have an answer. And I've used fitness for those lessons with my kids since the beginnings. Because when I started to do triathlon and I realized I was good at it, I like being me. I I set the ridiculous goal of never having podiumed, never having finished top 10 other than that one time. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go represent Canada at the World Championships. Like I'm just gonna go do that. And I did. I did in 2 years. I did that. And I went from and figured it out because it was a problem to solve. At the end of the day, it was an enormous goal. And for most people, actually most people thought I was out of my mind to do it. And my dad even said to my husband when I was at a pre-race, kind of getting ready to qualify, he was trying to figure out how to get Peter to talk me out of doing this and not do it because I was setting myself up for failure. You know, which I mean, he turned around in the end. And once I
want to touch on that for just a moment, because, you know, that right there is also another reason that so many people quit moving towards what they actually want to move towards. We're so influenced by other people's ideas of what we can or cannot do that it stops us in our tracks. And thankfully that didn't happen with you. You just kept pushing further, and you're like, no, this is happening. Okay. You know, I've had people too say, you know, I'll tell people some of my goals and they're like, wow, that sounds pretty unrealistic. I'm like, okay, to you, but to me, I see the vision.
Yeah.
And I watched, I loved this documentary. It was Walt Disney recently.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how, you know, he's building Disney World, and literally the banks that everyone in his office, everyone is saying, you are crazy. And he's like, nope, I have a vision. And look at Disney now. Right. So.
and that's the thing though, like I realize now, I used to use that every time, because like I realized, like in hindsight, you can always look back and I've always been a big dreamer, a really big dreamer, and I like setting audacious goals for myself. And I think because secretly I like people doubting me. I think I actually feed off of the doubt. I know now in hindsight that's just their limiting beliefs, that they can't imagine themselves doing it. They can't imagine themselves failing that bad. And I don't know why I don't see it as failure. I don't even know what I see it. It's just, it's a problem. Like it's a problem. It's a Chinese puzzle box. And what is the right combination in this box to open it up? Right. So yes, I wanted to go to Worlds, and I really wanted to be racing for 2013 because it was in England and I'd be able to race in front of my grandparents. So I added all these great internal drivers to make myself stay committed and follow through. But at the end of the day, if I didn't qualify that year, I was going to qualify the next or the next. I just had to find the right combination on this box to open it up to get my goal. And I've always worked that way. And doing that process, my kids were with me every step of the way, because unlike all the other people in my age group that were training and doing this, they didn't have kids because I was in my early 30s, right? I was at the age when most people were just kind of starting to think about having kids. And here I have 3 under 6. And I can't afford daycare because I'm not working, right? I don't, at this point, I still didn't have a job. I had just started thinking about becoming a personal trainer and doing that journey. And so my kids had to come along for the ride. So they got to watch me fail over and over again. They got to watch me hit walls physically and emotionally while I'm training, because I had no choice but to train them. And back to that whole 20 minutes, a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse episode is 20 minutes. That's how I trained.
Yeah.
I broke my training down into 20-minute segments between Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Super Sleuths, and Baby Einsteins.
And that right there is the difference. And this is what I speak to, inside of my program as well, is just like the difference between actually achieving your goals and not is how far are you willing to go to figure out how it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right. Not everything is going to be a walk in the park. Not everything is going to just like line up just like that. Right. You're going to have to, in order to get one piece of the puzzle in place, to sort of use your analogy, right? Get one piece of the puzzle in place. We may have to drop this little piece for a little while and then pick that back up at the end, and we'll fix that back in there. Right. But you have to be flexible. Yeah. You have to be determined, and you have to be willing to do those steps, even when they don't feel easy, comfortable, awesome, even when they feel like, maybe, am I going backwards? I can't really tell right now, but we're just going to keep going. We're just going to see what happens. Okay. Because I can't really tell what direction I'm going right now, but this is the way that I know I need to keep going. Right. And so the difference between people who actually achieve these things and people who don't is that no matter what these feelings are, no matter what's going on, you're finding a way to make it happen. You're pushing your limits. You're going through all these feels, emotional, physical, whatever it is. And you just get up the next day and you continue. And in the end, how freaking proud of yourself were you that you actually got to do what you wanted to do?
It was incredible. But the ironic part of it is, and that's been like the lessons I think I've been learning in my business since doing Worlds, is I learned that the whole time I was at Worlds, I kept waiting for someone to tap me on the shoulder and say they made a mistake and pull me off the finish line. So I had a lot of imposter syndrome. So even though I did all of that work and I earned it, I got off a plane where like different countries were all coming off and going to, and they're like Canada here, and there's all these Canadian equipped people, and like everyone's in their kit, and we're going to an athlete's village, and we're doing something like so far from what the bookworm sitting under a tree in high school would have ever imagined. And I'm like, who am I? And then I really started getting imposter syndrome. And again, it was Peter who pulled me out of it, because we ended up fundraising enough for him to be able to fly over with me, and my dad helped flying him over, and I got him his own Team Canada kit, because like it literally was a joint effort of him and I getting me to this place. Like we got to that place, and all the imposter syndrome started coming in, and he started photographing me. Like every time we came across an athlete from another country, he would make me take a picture, because it would force me to have to talk to that person and realize they had the same story as I did, and that we are similar enough, right? That we were all basically big dreamers being here in this moment. And I still had that imposter syndrome, and I came home, and it's only now as I coach all these other women to do to see themselves, that I've been able to let go of that last piece and accept that I wasn't an imposter. I owned it. And Pete he even framed my kit and everything for me and put it in my office. He's like, you can't ever forget you earned this and you did this. And
I love that.
Yeah, because I really felt like an imposter, and it's helping others see. I think what makes you a really good coach is it's you going through that journey, and then you seeing, and as people come through, little parts of yourself that you had to work through. And that's that connection I get to have with people now. And I think that's the hardest part for most of us, is to own our success. And it's okay.
Absolutely.
It's okay.
It's huge. And I work with entrepreneurs and things all the time. And this just comes up and up and up and up and up and up and up, right? It's, who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be saying that, to be bringing this to light? And who are you? You're someone who's experienced it. You figured it out. And there's always somebody, I love the phrase that says, there's always somebody that is a little bit further behind that can use everything that you know right now. Yeah. And there's always going to be somebody that's a little further ahead, right? There's just always going to be that area, and to just allow yourself to be exactly where you are and know that you have the ability to help those others and all of that. So that's awesome. And imposter syndrome is real. You heard it here. If you're feeling it too, it's so normal, and it's okay. And talk about it. Thank you so much, Amy. All of this has been so amazing. Is there anything else just before we get off of this amazing interview that you wanted to quickly share, or anything that you wanted to leave our audience with?
I think the thing is, every dream you have for yourself is truly possible. Every dream. You can dream the biggest dream. It's possible. You just have to do the work. That's all. It's just, you have to do the work, but it is so possible.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. That's all. Just do the work. Get into action.
Yeah.
Dreams are not created on the couch watching Netflix.
No, they're not. They're not. But it can get you through a 20-minute cycle session.
It can, right? There's that. Oh my gosh, Amy, thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I will have all the information to get in touch with Amy to try out Try Fit for yourself. That'll be in the show notes. And thank you so much, Amy, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Did you know the number one thing holding people back from achieving their dreams and living their best life is their own mind? Or more specifically, the fears that your mind has created? I believe that in order to live your best life, you've got to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's why I've created a brand new audio program entitled Find Your Courage. I want to show you how to think, act, and behave like the powerful human you were meant to be, so you can finally live a life of fulfillment, passion, and joy. And the best part is, this program is yours absolutely free. To register right now, simply visit CandiceJames.com/courage, and we can get started right now.